The assembly of the Dacian citadels from the Orăștie Mountains represents a unique complex of fortifications and settlements. From here it radiates from the past towards present, like an arrow of time, the beginnings of the Romanian people's history. In the center of this assembly, 2000 years ago, there was Sarmizegetusa Regia, the religious, political and economical capital of the Dacian kingdom founded by Burebista. It represented the nucleus of the Dacian kingdom from Burebista's time until Decebals. The Dacian citadels from Orăștie Mountains have been built between 1st century BC and 1st century AD. Their role was obviously a defensive one, but also one to project into the territory the power and military force of the Dacian aristocracy. Their ruins clearly offer us an image for the economical and demographical capacities of the Dacian kingdom. We had a documentation visit at the Dacian citadels starting from Orăștie towards the village of Grădiștea de Sus, commune Orăștioara, during a late autumn day. The gold of the forest leaves started to transform in copper through a secret alchemy of nature. It reminded us of the Dacians' gold, about which the local legends used to say that it lays hidden no one knows where. We have also been seekers for a few days, just like treasure hunters that stirred the earth for centuries. We wanted to see with our own eyes why the Dacian citadels are the concrete expression of the exceptional level reached by the Dacian civilization at the end of the first millennium AD. In our excursion, we were accompanied by the representatives of mountain gendarmerie that protected us from bears and led the way towards Costești Cetățuie citadel and then between the abrupt cliffs towards the Blidaru citadel. We left towards Sarmizegetusa at dawn when the morning haze lifted over the Orăștie river. We climbed on foot on the recent paved road leading to the fortified walls of the citadel. The day was starting grand with a breathtaking view. Once, here was an urban center with excellent organization and systematization. The walls, made from limestone blocks and filled with earth, surround a trapezoidal area where, 2000 years ago, the life was pulsating. The settlement from Sarmizegetusa Regia was laying for around 4.5 kilometers along the middle course of the Orăștie River. Its three main parts were the fortification, the sacred zone, and the eastern civil quarters. After the Roman conquest and the retreat of the Roman troops from Sarmizegetusa, the places were left desolated. Today, they are object of study for the archaeologists, many mysteries waiting to be discovered. In the citadels, there are constructions eminently military. They are large defensive structures. To raise them, nearby communities and all those depending on the master of the citadel's domain made substantial sustained efforts. This type of citadels, made of square stone, appear after the contact of the Dacians with the Greek citadels from the Black Sea, impressed by the Cyclopean type of construction with perfectly cut and placed blocks. The Dacians imported it, and because the difference between the sea level and the peak of the mountain is the one that it is, they modify slightly the base recipe, and to ensure the stability of this massive masonry from a certain point with considerable weight, they double the parament, link the two facets with wooden beams, and they fill the space between walls with well-rigged earth, the result being a construction, even if with diverse influences, a Dacian type of wall, identified mostly in the Orăștie Mountains region, Because the Dacians were strong and wealthy enough to afford qualified workforce in the beginning, probably even with Greek masons, brought during the Pontus Euxinus campaigns. Since such a citadel could not be finished in a few years, it is possible that from among the Dacians that assisted the Greek masons, a small masons guild could have arisen, capable to continue the work in the same manner. They are very strong citadels located on dominant ground, another problem for their construction represented by the necessity to bring such a large volume of stone from the quarries. The fact that this still happened shows the force and the determination of these communities and of those that order such works. Like in the case of the daggers, the fashion of these citadels also extended, not as much, because not everyone could afford the cost of the masons, let alone of quarries or of an infrastructure that would have allowed the raise of such a citadel, but they spent for a distance from the center of the kingdom, and to a certain degree they opposed successfully the Roman conquerors, but the history is the one that it is, and the Dacian citadels met the professional citadel conquerors. The inhabitants from inside and around the citadel formed a very well-structured society. The aristocracy called Pileates or Tarabostes, the Dacian warriors called Comati, and the rest of the people in a vertical hierarchy just like a mountain. At its base there were the farmers, above them the craftsmen, in the citadel the noblemen and the priests, and above them, closest to the gods, the king. The army was composed from the so-called Comati, professional warriors armed with the terrible curved swords Falx Dacica. They formed the main units, and some of the aristocrats were military chieftains armed with a straight sword and a curved dagger called sica. Other aristocrats dedicated themselves to the divine as a result of the reforms of Deceneu, great priest and advisor of Burebista. 7 temples, from which 2 round and 5 rectangular, and the sacrifice altar, formed the sacred area of the citadel. A paved road with limestone slabs ensured the access from the citadel to the sacred area. The most important religious ritual, the sacrifice, used to take place on the andesite altar. The most mysterious monument from Sarmizegetusa Regia, the large circular temple, great architectural monument, is the representative image of the site. The exterior circle has a 29-meter and 40 centimeters diameter and occupies most of the northern part of this area. It is structured in 3 concentrical elements, a double perimeter circle made from andesite, a median circle, and a central ellipse made from wooden pillars. The most prevalent theory is that it is a Dacian solar calendar, but this interpretation is imprecise. Iron tools, weapons, painted vessels, and jewelry were found inside the civilian quarters from eastern and western parts of the citadel, prove that here there was an intense economic activity. Dozens of workshops were functioning here, fueling with iron products the rest of the kingdom. The pre-industrial activity from Sarmizegetusa Regia shows the importance of the blacksmith in the Dacian society. The capital was sieged during the Second Daco-Roman War in the summer of 106 AD. This was happening because after the first war that took place between 101 and 102 AD, Decebal broke the truce with Trajan. The Dacians repelled the first attack, but in the end, the city was set on fire and the Romans occupied Dacia. Decebal fled, and when he was caught up, he took his own life, preferring a dignifying death to the captivity. The scene of King Decebal's death was illustrated on Trajan's column. Dacian's king's suicide is one of the memorable images of this triumphant monument from antique Rome, built from the order of Trajan to commemorate the wars of Dacian's conquest. Almost 40 meters tall, the column depicts scenes from the wars with the Dacians. Some historians state that Trajan, after Dacia's conquest, benefited of King Decebal's immense treasure that he has hidden under the river Sargeția. But there is no historical document to support this fact. Local legends say that Dacian gold stays hidden under the rocks, the gold and treasure hunters being permanently under the attention of the mountain gendarmes. In Hunedoara County is in use the new post of mountain gendarmes. In the area of the Dacian citadels on the touristic routes that the citadels are on, we have two mountaineering structures, Grădiștea de Munte Sarmizegetusa Regia Gendarmes Post and Costești Gendarmes Post. As main missions that these structures have, we are talking about maintaining public order on touristic routes. Of course that on these routes there are citadels that are part of UNESCO heritage, and our main role in this mission is first preventing and fighting the contraventional and infractional phenomena in this segment, of course support for tourists in case there are problems of any nature, and as part of heritage protection according to the legal competencies that we have.
Bineînțeles, sprijin turiștilor în cazul în care sunt probleme de orice natură și pe parte de protejare a patrimoniului conform competențelor ce ne revin în conformitate cu legislația în vigoare.
The ruins of the citadels from Orăștie, with their stones, gnawed by time, they are the bones of the Dacian placed orderly at the edge of the world. They are signs of frontier towards immortality. Through them, they fulfilled their destiny. They became immortals and will stay that way as long as we remember them.